You've been sitting quietly, trying to visualize your desires. Maybe you've lit a candle, opened your journal, repeated your affirmations, and yet instead of feeling peaceful and aligned, there's this restless energy moving through your chest. Your breath feels shallow. Your mind keeps racing between what you want and why it isn't here yet. And somewhere inside, a voice whispers, "You're doing this wrong." If you were truly aligned, you wouldn't feel anxious. What I want you to know right now is this: that voice is not telling you the truth. If something here resonates quietly, you can acknowledge it later in your own way. What I've learned after years of watching people struggle with manifestation is that anxiety doesn't mean your desires are blocked. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong vibration or that the universe isn't listening. Most often, anxiety during manifestation simply means your nervous system is asking for something it hasn't received yet: safety. And this is the part most people misunderstand about the manifestation process. We've been taught that positive thinking creates positive results, which isn't wrong. But what we haven't been taught is that positive thinking works best when it emerges from a nervous system that feels safe, not when it's forced over a body that's still holding tension, worry, or old patterns of protection. Your anxiety isn't resistance, it's information. Think about it this way: when you sit down to manifest something important to you, love, abundance, creative success, you're essentially asking your subconscious mind to believe in possibilities that feel bigger than your current reality. For many of us, this triggers a very ancient protective response. The part of us that has learned to stay small, to not hope too much, to avoid disappointment. This isn't spiritual weakness, this is human biology. Your nervous system's job is to keep you alive, not necessarily to help you thrive. So when you begin imagining a life that feels significantly different from what you've known, that old protective system might create some internal alarms, tension, restlessness, what we call anxiety. And here's what happens next in most manifestation practices. We try to override the anxiety. We tell ourselves to relax, to let go, to trust. We might even judge ourselves for not being able to stay in that high vibe state. But what if we approach this differently? What if we honored the anxiety as a sign that our inner world needs tending before it can expand? Let me describe how this shows up in the body, because I think you'll recognize this. You sit down to visualize or affirm, and within moments you notice your shoulders climbing toward your ears. Your jaw might clench slightly. Your breath becomes more shallow, like you're trying to control the process instead of allowing it. Maybe your stomach feels tight, or there's a flutter of nervousness in your chest. Some people describe it as feeling wired and tired at the same time, like there's energy moving, but it's not flowing smoothly. And then comes the mental layer: I should be able to do this. Everyone else seems to manifest so easily. Maybe I'm just not spiritual enough. Maybe I don't deserve what I'm asking for. There is nothing wrong with you. What you're experiencing is actually a sign of sensitivity and self-awareness. Your nervous system is responding to the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and it's trying to protect you from potential disappointment. This is completely normal, especially for thoughtful, conscious people who have experienced hurt or loss before. You might write safe if your nervous system is ready to rest a little. The shadow side of this experience often looks like over-efforting, trying to get manifestation right, monitoring your thoughts, your energy, your alignment constantly, feeling like you need to maintain positivity at all costs. This creates what I call spiritual perfectionism, the belief that you need to have your inner state perfectly calibrated before the universe will respond to you. The gift side is much gentler. It's the recognition that your sensitivity is actually a manifestation asset, not a liability. When you learn to regulate your nervous system first, your visualizations become more vivid, your affirmations land deeper, and your whole energy field relaxes into a more magnetic state. The gift is learning that you don't need to force positive states. You need to create conditions where positive states can emerge naturally. This is the difference between trying to think your way into feeling better and creating safety so that feeling better becomes effortless. There's a kinder way to look at this. Instead of trying to overcome anxiety, we can learn to be with it long enough for it to transform. Here are some gentle practices that can help you shift from anxiety into alignment. First, try a simple breathing practice. When you notice tension during manifestation, pause and take 3 very slow breaths, making your exhale longer than your inhale. This signals safety to your nervous system. Second, change your inner language. Instead of "I need to calm down," try "I'm learning to feel safe." Instead of "why can't I just relax," try "My body is asking for something it needs." Third, practice what I call emotional permission. Before you visualize your desires, spend a moment saying, "It's okay that I feel nervous about this. It's okay that part of me is still scared. I can want something beautiful and feel anxious about it at the same time." Fourth, try grounding your manifestation practice. Instead of floating in visualization, imagine roots growing from your body into the earth. Feel held and supported before you imagine expansion. If you practice this tonight, you may come back and simply write "done." Fifth, use what I call somatic affirmations, affirmations that acknowledge the body. I am learning to trust my desires. My nervous system is remembering safety. I can receive good things at my own pace. Sixth, create a manifestation ritual that begins with regulation, not visualization. Light a candle, feel your feet on the ground, notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can physically feel. Only then move into imagining what you want. Seventh, practice the art of slow manifestation. Give yourself permission to want something without needing it immediately. Hold your desires lightly, like cupping water in your hands. Let me share something else that can transform your relationship with anxious manifestation. Understanding that your nervous system has its own timeline for expansion. When you've lived in survival mode, whether from childhood experiences, relationship trauma, financial stress, or simply being highly sensitive in an overwhelming world, your nervous system has learned to associate big dreams with big risks. This isn't conscious, it's encoded in your body's cellular memory. So when you sit down to manifest abundance, for example, and you feel that familiar tightness in your throat or flutter in your stomach, your body might be saying, "Wait, last time we hoped for something this big, we got disappointed. Let me create some protective tension just in case." This is wisdom, not weakness. Your nervous system is trying to love you the only way it knows how. What helps is speaking directly to this protective part of yourself. You might place your hand on your chest and say quietly, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I understand why you're nervous. We're going to take this slowly together." Sometimes I suggest to people that they practice what I call graduated manifestation. Instead of jumping straight into visualizing your biggest desires, start with something that feels exciting but not overwhelming. Maybe before manifesting your dream home, you practice feeling deeply grateful for clean water in your current space. Before calling in your soulmate, you practice appreciating moments of connection you already have. This teaches your nervous system that expansion can happen safely, gradually, without triggering old protective responses. Your body learns, "Oh, we can want good things without losing what we already have. We can grow without abandoning ourselves." You might also notice that anxiety during manifestation often comes with specific thoughts. What if I don't deserve this? What if I get it and lose it? What if other people judge me for wanting more than I have? These aren't spiritual obstacles. These are invitations to bring compassion to the parts of you that learned somewhere along the way that wanting was dangerous. If this feels grounding, you might choose ground. Another layer I want to offer you is understanding the difference between forcing and allowing in your body. When you're forcing manifestation, your muscles tend to tighten, your breathing becomes more shallow, and there's often a quality of grasping in your energy. You might notice your hands actually forming fists or your jaw clenching slightly. When you're allowing manifestation, there's a quality of openness in your posture. Your shoulders drop naturally. Your breathing deepens without effort. There's space around your heart, like you're making room for something beautiful to enter. You can use this as a guide. If you notice tension while visualizing or affirming, pause and ask your body, "What do you need to feel safe enough to open right now?" Sometimes the answer is as simple as adjusting your posture, taking a few deeper breaths, or giving yourself permission to want what you want without judgment. What I want you to understand is that manifestation isn't about maintaining perfect positive states. It's about learning to be honest with yourself while still choosing to believe in possibilities. You don't need to fix your anxiety. You need to create enough inner safety that anxiety can transform itself. When you approach manifestation from a regulated nervous system, when you feel genuinely safe in your body, your whole energy becomes more magnetic. Not because you're forcing positivity, but because you're authentically at peace. This is what I mean when I say that alignment isn't something you achieve. It's something you allow by creating the right inner conditions. Remember this, the universe isn't waiting for you to become perfectly calm before it responds to your desires. But your own ability to receive is enhanced when your nervous system feels safe enough to expand. You are not blocking your manifestations by feeling anxious. You are human, and humans sometimes feel anxious when they're growing into something new. Trust your timing, trust your sensitivity, trust that learning to feel safe in your own body is not separate from manifestation. It is manifestation. Here's one final practice I want to leave you with. The art of befriending your anxiety. The next time you feel anxious during manifestation, instead of trying to change it, try getting curious about it. Where exactly do you feel it in your body? Does it have a color, a texture, a temperature? What is it trying to tell you? Sometimes anxiety is asking for more grounding. Sometimes it's asking you to slow down. Sometimes it's simply asking to be acknowledged, like a small child who needs to be seen before they can settle. When you listen to your anxiety with compassion instead of judgment, something remarkable happens. It often transforms naturally without you having to do anything to fix it. The tightness in your chest might soften into spaciousness. The racing thoughts might settle into clarity. The nervous energy might reorganize itself into excitement. This is the difference between managing anxiety and befriending it. Management requires effort, befriending requires presence, and when you can be present with all of your inner states, the excitement and the nervousness, the hope and the fear, the expansion and the contraction, you become magnetic in a completely natural way. Not because you've eliminated the negative emotions, but because you've learned to hold space for your full human experience while still choosing to believe in beautiful possibilities. Remember that every person who has ever manifested something meaningful has felt anxious along the way. The anxiety isn't evidence that you're doing it wrong. It's evidence that you're growing into something that matters to you. Your nervous system will learn to trust this process as you practice it. Your body will remember how to feel safe while expanding. Your heart will learn that it can hope without needing to protect itself from disappointment. I trust that you have everything within you to create the life you're dreaming of, and you can do it at your own pace with your own nervous system leading the way. You don't need to force anything. You simply need to remember that you are already worthy of what you're calling in, anxiety and all. Asterisk, this content is for educational and spiritual reflection purposes only. It is not a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, or financial advice.